So thank you all for making yourselves available on a Monday evening. I appreciate it. And I'm going to, Tara, kind of rely on you a little bit in this meeting because I am not quite as prepared for this as I was hoping I would be at this point. I don't know where September went, but it's gone by real fast, and I don't know. Pat, I think I've seen you standing outside of the Concord Children's Center at a table recently when I've been dropping my daughter off at Harvey Wheeler. So it's nice to see your unmasked face. But,
yes, there I was.
Yeah.
Here I am unmasked.
Yeah. But I don't want to profess that I know enough about the administrative code at this point to kind of comfortably navigate us through this process. So I will be learning along the way with you all, but I think, hopefully we've at least all had a chance to look through it and get a sense of what is in the document. I'm not sure what makes the most sense if we want to kind of go through it, if anybody has any, kind of major things to discuss at first, and then we can kind of take a more focused approach to go through it after that. Sue?
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe my memory has failed, but I'm wondering why we are examining and updating the administrative code at this point.
If my recollection is correct, this came up recently, and it kind of all came to our attention that nobody has revised this document since 1997. So while there may not be a lot of substantive changes that we need to make at this point, I think we all agreed that since no major changes had been made in so long, it was worth taking a look and going back through everything.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question? Do you know if Mav was invited to this meeting?
She was. I saw her on the email that Carrie sent around with the agenda.
Okay.
I have a question. The document that I got from Carrie's email right before the meeting is about restoration of services, but is that different from the administrative code? I may not have a copy of the document.
Yeah, Kristen, I just found it in my email, I think from August.
Okay, I have to reprint.
I can put a link in the chat.
Okay, that works
for everyone.
Thanks.
My chat. I'm sorry, just to follow up on my question about, I just wondered if there were other people outside of us who are concerned that we need to look at the code, given the amount of time that has lapsed since its last examination.
I'm happy to answer that question if you'd like. So it was, there was a lot of concern expressed during the time that we were discussing the contract between the town and the library trustees about what the role of the library committee was and whether it was worth clarifying that and ensuring that it's consistent with the best interests of the town at this time. My suggestion my question about whether there was interest in doing this was basically founded in all the questions that I was getting from some of the people here about our role and about how we defined our role. So we have also discussed this with Sherry Litwack and with the select board, in a select board meeting, and everybody has been supportive of this process. So I guess, and Lindsay, this is more a you thing than a me thing now, but I think, this could be a very short-lived process. We could all review the document and say, yeah, this is great. We all feel really confident. We understand the committee's role. We feel this is an accurate representation. And yay, fewer meetings. Or we might feel there need to be some tweaks. And what would happen is we would make those recommendations to the select board.
Can I just follow up, Tara? Were there any particular people who sort of said you really should look at this administrative code because we think, or I think it's needed, or it's out of whack or something?
I felt like it was the people on this committee who felt that way.
That's
I was
how I'm
responding
remembering it
to all
too.
the questions I was getting from the committee.
Can I ask a question? I remember the meeting vaguely. I have to admit that it's been just a whirlwind for the past month or so. So I'm a little fuzzy, but was this meeting when we were, Sherry was talking about the agreement with the corporation, between the corporation and the town.
Yeah.
We were reviewing that agreement. And I just got up to go see if I could find my notebook, which I couldn't. I had some notes about there was like just a couple things that people wanted clarified, and there was just a couple of specific things. It wasn't a real big deal. But there were a couple of things that came up in that conversation. I just wonder if anybody remembers those specifics, because I'm just not.
I'm not sure I remember the specifics, but I do remember the question being kind of what is the role of the committee in the big picture, and making sure that this document accurately reflected what we all think the role of us on the committee is.
That's right, because the role of the library committee, the committee wasn't mentioned that much in the agreement between the town and the corporation. That now I'm remembering.
Yeah.
So there was
totally appropriate. That agreement was a completely separate framework. So it was totally appropriate that we were not referenced in there. The reference was to the administrative code. And so in order to address everybody's concerns about that, I wanted to make sure you all had an opportunity to look at it.
Right.
Thanks, Tara.
Now I'm remembering. So it was really just, let's all pay attention to the administrative code because they reference it in this document.
Yeah.
Make sure we're comfortable with the administrative code.
And then it needs to become, so right now on the library website, there is reference to the library committee and the libraries committee's role, which is not actually, does not reflect the administrative code. It's something that was written more from a marketing perspective a few years ago. So this is an opportunity to just make sure everybody has the same story.
Right.
So to understand, sorry to persist, but they persist. I was just unsure if there was somebody or somebodies who really thought that the library committee, had served its function, and therefore, look at the administrative code. The library committee may not be needed anymore.
Oh, I didn't hear that at all.
No.
I have never heard that.
Thank you.
So I may have generated a deeper look at this. Partly, my big concern was that we were referencing two different documents that were written in 2 different years and posted in 2 different places that said what our responsibilities were. And I felt like that should be consistent across the board. And if we're going to be held to it, we need to make sure that what we're being held to is the same thing that we think we're being held to.
Right.
Thank you. I really appreciate the clarity.
So it's my fault. Sorry.
No. Nobody's fault. Nobody's fault.
Kristen, I offered the opportunity. Blame me.
No. No. I'm trying to clarify.
So over to you, Lindsay.
All right. So I think in the interest of time, first and foremost, were there any kind of major things that anybody noticed or wanted to comment on when reviewing the administrative code that anybody feels like we should kind of talk about and, kind of figure out a way to perhaps modify or tweak any language?
We're just looking at it holistically, not going step by step.
Yeah, just big picture first.
We had talked about and maybe mentioned the possibility of extending the committee to more than 7 members in order to increase the diversity of the group of us. Is that something that we should, is this a time to bring that up since it's the first sentence of the code?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to support that because I think that if my understanding of the history of this committee, going right back to the start of the libraries, and that all libraries in the colony had library committees, this is a very foundational group that has to be representative of the community that the library serves. Now, obviously, that can't be done absolutely perfectly because the community changes over time. But I think that perhaps we should have a discussion, if not today, then at some point, about looking at ourselves and saying, are we sufficiently representative of the community? If this committee is to help the library director and the corporation and the town manager represent the community and its needs, perhaps we need to sort of suggest other inclusions on the committee, and that might mean men, it might mean different types of jobs or positions, it might mean some representative of different color, different people. You know, it's wide open, it seems to me, because this is the committee that I think, from reading the administrative code, really represents the community at its broadest. So I'm agreeing kind of with the idea that perhaps we need to consider numbers and also types of positions. That may mean I must take myself off the committee so there could be a seat for somebody else. In other words, you know, are we concerned about that role that we have?
So I am a fierce advocate for diversifying the committee. At the same time, I have concerns about our ability to attract members to the committee over the past several years. And I was the one who brought up the idea of increasing the size of the committee in order to achieve that level of diversity. But I guess I'm also playing devil's advocate. If it is already challenging, this year we were rich in options in terms of having committee members, but it's not always that way. So I just want to make sure we don't create challenges for future committees in terms of replacing members as terms expire. I don't know if anyone else has that concern.
My concern is along those same lines. It's, you know, what is our capacity to fulfill Sue's admirable goal? You know, I'm not sure we have the capacity to do that, but I also, it's the Board of Selectmen who appoint the committee members, and the committee members come from the green cards. The green cards are voluntarily submitted by citizens of Concord. I would rather see energy placed in advocating for more marketing and outreach from the town, from the Board of Selectmen, to everybody to participate in committees. But I don't think that that's necessarily our role. I think we get the green cards we get, and then we talk to the people that we talk to, and that we can assess if we need, you know, if we have 6 applicants and 3 of them fulfill a diversity role that we'd like to see happen, that's an excellent reason for recommending those people. But I don't think it's up to us to go doing that. Mm-hmm. It's really a town function to be welcoming and inclusive to everyone in the town to be participating on committees.
In my time on the library committee, that has been part of our effort. So this year was unusual, but generally in advance of the meeting when we are selecting when we're going through the green cards and inviting people in, we're encouraging everybody on the committee to kind of go out and shake the trees and find people.
Oh, which is fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfectly reasonable. And that would seem to be within the realm of our capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think we can do a full boat
So
recruitment effort. I think
it
You know,
seems like the language should be, the language in that introductory paragraph should basically be kept the same. The only question right now is whether we're interested in increasing the membership from 7 to say 9 or whatever the case may be.
And I really, agree basically with you, Pat, that, but what I think, because of the changes in the library and because there's been an addition now to really promote programs or speakers or something that reflect more diversity in what the two libraries do, that maybe we need to be a little more specific without saying, there's got to be 6 people from West Concord and nothing like that. But maybe we need to say in a wider way, not just through the green cards, which I've had a lot of experience with, but reach out if we really want to do this, to bring in, for example, if this library, which I personally hope, decides to design some kind of program for the future, which brings in speakers of Black history, of the METCO program, ways in which the town of Concord can enrich its own understanding of its Black history, or bring in people from Cambridge and whatnot to broaden the picture, then I think we need a little bit more in terms of people to help do that. I agree with Tara that we could enlarge this committee and at the same time share with the town, oh bless you.
Thank you.
And maybe share with the town an outreach of what the goals are. That's all I'm saying. So I'll shut up.
Terry?
Oh, no question, we need to do better outreach for the library and for basically all the committees in town. We were just talking at the previous meeting, the select board meeting, that we need to do some improvements to the green card process. And this whole thing about applicant pool and diversity is a big issue with many committees. And I agree with Tara that you don't want to get in a situation where you have enlarged it to 9, let's say, and at least one has to be a man and one has to be minority or whatever, and you don't get those applicants, and now you're going to have these vacancies. I really think that until we can do this better outreach, which includes the select board fixing the green card process, which is definitely on our radar screen. It was the very next thing we were going to work on when COVID hit. So we were just saying tonight, all right, it's going to be a goal again for next year. But we're having this problem with a lot of committees and a lot of vacancies. We don't have enough volunteers in town who have the time and the willingness to serve, let alone the diversity. So even though it's a great idea and we need it, we're not necessarily going to get those applicants.
Can I make a suggestion that we leave the language as it is, but change it to from 7 to a maximum of 9, so that we do have some more wiggle room to add more members, but that we're not locked into having a set number of members.
Mm-hmm.
So that there'd be a max. But let me just then finish my thought. And that we make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen if they're going through a process of considering this, that Section 2 of the town charter include language about that the town will seek to recruit a diverse member of citizens, or a diversity of citizens, that could be in the town charter, but not necessarily address it in this agreement.
Could we, rather than saying a maximum of 9, could we say a minimum of 7?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I'm just thinking, can we give ourselves some room to enlarge in order to recruit,
Yeah.
but not lock ourselves into, if we know that getting 9 might be a
Would be
challenge.
hard. Yeah, I had that same thought actually of adding a sentence that said, the committee would consist of a minimum of 7 members, but maybe increased to accommodate a wider diversity of membership when the volunteer pool dictates, when it's appropriate or something like that.
When the volunteer gods bless us.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes, when the bounty of volunteers, yes.
There's a sentence in the chat that I want to suggest that if we decide to do that, maybe could go before it, which is just that every effort shall be made to ensure that committee membership is as representative of the wide range of Concordians as possible, or as representative of the community as possible. Because I do think it's important, in light of the commitments we made this summer, to make meaningful statements that will help ensure that people in the future focus on that priority.
I love that.
Yeah, I think I heartily agree with you, Tara. But I mean, for example, we've talked, I think, earlier about the stores and businesses in Concord and how to perhaps rein in a little more interest in the library. Sort of strengthen that relationship. And it would be wonderful if we ended up with with a representative of the business community from any part of West Concord or Concord. And I guess my concern is how the library committee indicates what it does and how important it is as the oldest committee, the one that all the libraries in the colony had to have when they started libraries, and how it's, I think, an open door for community members to easily participate in working with the inside of the library, not just as a user. I think that's such a strong explanation for the importance of this committee that I worry that, maybe we need to do something to solicit people. And I'm not forcing this, I'm just, suggesting it. As the library begins to build its huge addition and whatnot, could there be some kind of marketing opportunities to try to explain the importance of this committee and how citizens can become directly involved in the inside of the library, which is so important?
I think that sounds like a great idea, and something we can certainly take up over the coming months. But I think in the interest of keeping our discussion about the administrative code moving along, we should focus the remaining time we have this evening on trying to get through that document and seeing if there's any changes that we would like to make to that document, and then kind of maybe keeping track of some other ideas that come up along the way, and seeing how we can incorporate those into future discussions.
Yeah,
I have one more addition. Oh, sorry, Pat, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that, when I look at item C in the agreement, the relationship with the library staff. I think that the last sentence really sums it up, and that the library committee shall assist the library director in ensuring the effective operation of the library by providing policy guidance and recommendations. And the library has a strategic plan, the library has a mission, the library has, you know, a lot of documentation about what the goals are of the library. And to me, we're the committee that we can sort of be the eyes on is the library meeting its commitment? Is it being effective in its through policy in meeting the goals that the library set for itself? So I think this document says it. Without, you know, and this is simply the administrative code. It's, you know, but I think it says it. That's all I wanted to say.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. The one thing I was going to suggest was that it may be worth considering adding in the relationship with the library staff, maybe also saying and corporation, library corporation, and stating that the library, in an effort to encourage ongoing communication and transparency, the library committee shall will issue a standing invitation to a representative of the corporation to participate in meetings, in the meeting agenda, to provide updates and share information with some few things. Because I think the communication between the corporation and the library committee is because it's on a volunteer basis and everybody's so stretched for time, sometimes the communication breaks down. And we're not getting information in a timely enough manner to be able to be supportive of the corporation. And I'm not suggesting it's a corporation issue or a committee issue. It's a everybody thing. We're just all stretched. But I think that might put a nice formal process in place to ensure that collaboration continues.
I really support what you're saying, because I know you said it before, and I think communication is really, really key. I'm also kind of concerned about, I'm sorry, my cats are going to appear with their tails. What are the relationships, or what is the relationship between the library committee and the town manager? And does anything in our administrative code need shoring up? I know that in the C, again, as Pat mentioned, the town manager agrees to consult with the library committee prior to and during the course of recruitment for a permanent library director. There's also that the town manager, I think, seeks comments from the library committee in terms of you know, the comments about the library director's, whatchamacallit?
Performance?
Yes, performance. But I'm not sure that's really clear in this particular document at this time. And I wonder if the library committee and the town manager need to shore up their relationship.
I'm curious about whether Terry has any thoughts on this one, because there's definitely a separation in conversations I've had with Mike Lawson, you know, in terms of, like, we work as part of the town governance process through the select board, which then interfaces with the town manager. And that's as far as I can go on that. But in terms of the appropriateness of asking anything more from the town manager, I'm not sure.
It's a really kind of Gordian knot, Tara, as I see it, that it's, I mean, not insupportable, but sometimes you have, I mean, we have 4 different entities, essentially, and how the communication lines cross among those entities, I think is really critical, because it's a lot easier to have open communication directions back and forth than trying to recover some colossal boo-boo that somebody's made at a particular time. And it comes to mind because I know Stephen Crane a bit, and he is a new town manager still. I think maybe next year he won't be a new town manager. But I'm curious about Terry's nodding her head.
Right. Okay, there's a lot going on here. So first, the library committee had a relationship with Chris Whalen. Now we have a new town manager, Stephen Crane, with a different style, and he's new. So we're still kind of evolving the relationships. I feel like maybe everybody's tiptoeing around something, that maybe there's something you want to say and I'm not quite getting, you're being polite and indirect. So if there's something you want to say, that's fine. Also, I think, well, if there is something that needs to be changed or tweaked, this is going to be a good time to do it. We're working on the administrative code, and we have a pretty new town manager. So if there is something out there, let's discuss it. And Sue, you had a comment that I didn't really understand. Or I heard it wrong. You said that in the code, it's written that the town manager will consult with the library committee when he's hiring the new library director, and will get input on the performance evaluation. You see those two things in the code. Sue, you said something, it wasn't clear. Is the wording not clear on how he consults? Or are you saying the wording's clear, but we're not really following what the words say? I didn't get your point.
I'm trying to understand the complex of communication links, which, given the corporation, the town manager,
Right.
the select board, and the community,
Right.
how these intersect to the benefit of the library, not to the benefit of one group or another.
Well,
But
that's a really good point, because when I became liaison, the first 3 to 6 months, I was completely confused.
Mhm.
Did not even know there was a library committee and a library corporation. And I don't think the public, most of the public doesn't know any of that. It just comes.
right. I never knew that, and
Right.
I've been here for a number of centuries.
Right. Then I learned that the agreement was being revised, but even though I was liaison, I wasn't going to be involved in it. It was going to be Mike Lawson. There was a lot of communication issues that happened last year that are exactly what Sue was saying. So this could be a good opportunity to take a look and correct it, but I don't think that we can fix anything about the role of the corporation or the role of the town manager. We have to mostly work on.
No, I understand that.
Right.
Right.
So I have the feeling, Tara and others, that there's something that you want to say that I'm not quite.
What I want to say is, based on every other board role I'm in, like, our role is to oversee the function of the library, advise the CEO of the library, who is basically the library director, and provide feedback on the library, on that person's performance. And I think all of those things are in that document and are appropriate. I think there's absolutely something broken with communication, which is why I want to make sure we keep encouraging communication with the library trustees. I think it's also honestly an education of our own committee in terms of engaging in like staying up to date on select board meetings, staying up to date on what some of these things mean, because again, there's so much flow of information and we don't always know what's going on. And so sometimes we're late to the party and we weren't late to the library agreement party. I actually had a meeting with Stephen Crane and lobbied for closer involvement in that. And it was decided that that was not appropriate at the time for that Mike Lawson would represent the town in that role. So that was a disappointing decision at the time. But I think that's something that we can all work on as a group in terms of staying on top of things, maybe having a better sense of what's going on at select board meetings when library issues are coming up. And that's something we need to think about, but I'm not sure, and I'm talking for a long time, I'm sorry. I actually am not sure that there is anything in the plan. Like, we advise on the long range plan. It feels like all the nuts and bolts are appropriate to our role. And I do have to say, like, yes, we had a relationship with Chris Whalen, but I never met Chris Whalen. And Stephen Crane has been to a library committee meeting.
Yeah.
And Stephen Crane has communicated with us more than Chris Whalen did. So I think COVID years, he's been around for a long time now. He's also been dealing with Estabrook COVID, everything under the sun this year, and then got thrown into this library agreement the minute he walked in the door. So I think there are things we can do through activism and through working together and being really committed to communication and transparency and being as knowledgeable as we can about our roles. But I feel really good about the role as defined in the agreement.
Good.
I do too.
Good.
I'm also a little bit puzzled. And
Can't hear you, Pat.
Can you hear me?
That's
now.
better. Yeah.
Am I muted? Okay. I'm a little bit confused because I haven't felt like anything was necessarily broken, but so that may be part of the being knowledgeable or the communication or not fully understanding. You know, you kind of walk onto the library committee and you spend a year sort of figuring out who takes notes when and delighting in the fact that you get to tour parts of the library you hadn't seen before and things like that. But you know, the one thing that I think has been challenging in my tenure has been getting the building project off the ground. But that's not necessarily our purview, but it is something that we're interested in. So I don't know if I'm making, if I'm getting to any kind of a point here other than I think the agreement as it stands, I think with the addition of we should make it as diverse as possible. Your language, I like that, Tara, and maybe expanding the numbers that we could possibly include in the committee is fine. And maybe what we're speaking to is sort of what we want to use our committee meetings for, to discuss and identify areas in which we want to know more about any particular issue, or we need to know more about any particular issue and be involved.
Yeah, and I think like, and my comments about like educating ourselves and being more engaged in sort of the town issues is more about like what we've been doing over the past like year and a half. I think our committee has been a lot more activist over the past year and a half than, and I'm going into my 5th year, than it was in the beginning. We were a lot more ceremonial and a lot more like, yay, library, this is all great, you know, and we'd leave the meetings and there was nothing else to do. We didn't need to go to any other meetings. But if we want to have the role that we're talking about, then that just means that, you know, we need to be more engaged in town government across the board. And that's a choice that every chair is going to make, every member is going to make for themselves. So that was more my point, that that's like what we bring in our leadership roles.
There's also a role for Carrie to let us know what areas she could use our input, our feedback, our advice. If there are things going on that Carrie is aware of in the town that would impact the library, and that we need to be that she wants to make sure we know about, so that we can be supportive of the library, or because basically I see our fundamental role is to make sure the library is operating to the benefit of the citizens of Concord, all the citizens of Concord.
Right. And I think too that I've heard that in the past, library committees have heard from various workers in the library talking about their jobs, how they do them, so that the library committee ends up with a much bigger panoply of understanding of all the different people, including the custodians and the people who move the tables and chairs around on the grass, so that we have a wider view, a deeper view of all the work that the library does, not just books, but all the other things that I think really help to make this a fabulous place. So how do we set forth that in terms of not necessarily changing the administrative code, but making notes to ourselves that there may be some things that we'd like to pursue in the coming year, whether it's a program to focus on, in my opinion, Black history in this town. It's not taught in the schools. I used to teach it. There was more teaching about that in the elementary schools, but now there is nothing. And the history of the Medco program, all of these things could be done and could be a real eye-opener for the community. So I think there's several areas in which we can expand our knowledge, and I'm not sure if that means that we change any administrative code, but my impression of the code is it's really excellent to begin with.
I think we've done, I just have to say, I've only been on the committee. I feel like I've only been on the committee for 6 minutes, but it's probably been longer than that. But just what I've observed in the library and the changes that the library has made and the additions that the library has brought, the focus groups and the surveys, and that there's ample room within the context of our committee to bring those kinds of suggestions to the administration of the library, and to explore those kinds of ideas. And certainly with a more diverse membership, we might get some more diverse ideas, but I think it's in the context of the committee that we can do that.
Good.
And that we've been doing it.
Right.
Right.
So it sounds like we're all in agreement that the nuts and bolts of the code more than clearly set forth what we all see our role on the committee as. We just have a little bit of tweaking to the beginning and the end of the document, adjusting the number of members and adding language about working with the corporation to attend have a library committee member attend their meetings, and vice versa. Does that kind of very quickly summarize where we kind of have landed at this point in the conversation?
I think
Okay.
so. I think you nailed it, Lindsay.
Okay.
I have one small thing,
Sure.
which is in section C, number 9. Can we change Board of Selectmen to Select Board?
Yes.
We should.
Okay.
All right. So I don't know if this is an appropriate next step, but so somebody please chime in if I'm wrong here. What I can do is take the comments we've all made this evening and update the document, kind of create a draft version, and and have it ready for us for our next conversation. Our next meeting is a full committee in October. And we'll add it to the agenda. We can talk about it, make sure I've accurately got everybody's comments. And then if we approve that document, we can present it to the select board for approval from there.
That'd be great. And I personally would just request that we get that type of document, which is full of substance, a couple of days before the meeting or before the information of how to get into the Zoom.
Let's hope October moves a little slower than September, and I'll make that happen.
So who's writing these changes that will be brought to the October meeting?
I'm happy to do it. Kristen, if you wouldn't mind just shooting me your notes, and Tara, if you've got the comments that you have regarding the language for the corporation.
Yep.
I can incorporate that all into the document, and we'll get it to Carrie in advance of our meeting in October.
Okay, I'm actually cutting and pasting Tara's comment from chat and putting it in the minutes, if that's okay, Tara. Yeah.
Sorry, that's great.
Okay.
I'm getting a little slow on the mute button at this hour of the day.
Fair enough. All right. I don't know if Carrie is here, but does anybody have anything else about the administrative code for discussion? Otherwise, I will turn it over to Carrie if she's here, because I know she wanted to work us in on a few things. Sue?
Yeah, just one thought. It seems to me that maybe it would be good that, I'm not sure if this should be in the administrative code or if it should be in an invitation to the town manager, but that he should come early in the year to meet with the library committee, period. Not a particular agenda, but just to make sure that that communication link is formally acknowledged.
I would make one suggestion related to that, that not be, I think it's a great idea, but not limited to the beginning of the year, maybe just at one point in the year, because what has happened over this past year is where normally we are having lots of meetings with like staff members and tours of different parts of the library. We've had a lot of urgent business. And so it's been difficult to put in some of those more informational sorts of sessions. So I would hate to saddle a future committee with trying to force that into force that into the calendar. So if that change is made, just making it a little more flexible, I think would be better.
Right, maybe as early as possible in the year, because all of those kinds of thoughts kind of creep up when you start moving towards making a plan for town meeting. And I think sometimes that's the time to share those perspectives before town meeting and budgets get fixed and all of that.
So is that a beginning of the year question or an end of the year question? Sorry, Kristen.
Oh, I see what you mean. I'm thinking of the fiscal year, June 30th. And so July 1st, rather than a calendar year, I'm sorry.
Sue, are you suggesting that this language about encouraging the town manager to, what I have written is a suggestion was made that the town manager be encouraged to attend the library committee meeting once a year. Are you talking about putting this language in the administrative code, or are you talking about we should do this thing?
I'm not sure how to deal with that. I don't think, I think the administrative code is so good that to open it up might not be
Can of worms. Okay.
Right.
I'm just gonna, so we're just saying encouraged to attend. Does that reflect what you
encouraged to attend?
Okay.
And I'm not sure. I know all the years are sort of different in terms of times and purposes and whatnot. but maybe that can be worked out, you know, between the library committee and the town manager.
Okay.
Okay.
With that, we can toss it over to Carrie.
I've been present and listening, even though my video is off. So I didn't have any other, did you have questions for me, or I could give you just an update about today? It wasn't part of the meeting agenda, but we did open the library, both locations for browsing as of today. It's our phase 3 reopening. So you can make an appointment in advance, 45 minutes to come into either location between 10 and 6, Monday through Friday. And Fowler closes from 1 to 2 for cleaning daily. And the first hour of the day is for senior citizens and people who are at risk for illness. So they'll have the first hour of the day. And we're keeping curbside going at the main library and adding a curbside delivery at Fowler for people who would like to brought right out to their vehicle, to give residents lots of different options to enjoy the library. So I wanted to let you know that this is all current as of today. It's a soft launch this week, so you'll begin to see more announcements about the reopening in the coming days. But it went well, and people are really excited to be back.
Oh, yeah, great. What's a senior citizen, Carrie?
However you want to define it.
Well, it sort of depends on my mood, but
I think it's getting younger and younger and
yes,
younger.
right. We just want everyone to be safe, and we put in a lot of protocols. When you come back in the buildings, you'll see the markings for social distancing, hand sanitizer. Some areas that previously you had access to are roped off. So that we're starting small and see how that goes. But it is really exciting. So please drop by when you can. It'd be great.
And Carrie, the lawn out front is a marvel. It's absolutely terrific. People slow down and look at it to see, geez, I should be there. You know, wow. It's the best ad for this library, I think, aside from those musical performances and dances. It's absolutely fabulous. I hope we can continue it.
I hope so. It's really great to see the lawn enjoyed in that way. And now we have a story walk up, and then in October we'll have our annual Scarecrow Festival. So that's coming. And part of our protocols, we have some protocols for groups to have events outside, small outdoor programs. So the friends are actively studying that to see what they might be able to offer outdoors before the weather changes. So
I hope a square dance.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Wouldn't that be fun? A huge square dance.
6 foot distance square dance.
That'd make the Boston papers.
For sure. Nice idea. So if anyone has any questions, I'm glad to answer them. But I was invited to the select board meeting to share the information today. So they were so gracious and excited and complimentary about everything the library is doing. So it was, hopefully that will help spread the word that we're open and available. So.
Congratulations, Carrie. It's really
Congratulations.
Kristen, I sent you the language.
Thank you,
in the chat.
Thank you, Carrie, to you and your whole team. Really good job.
Thanks.
And just reminding me, can you send whoever it is news and notices to put in that the library is open? Because got to mention that.
Great, I'll do that this week. Thank you for the reminder. That sounds great. Okay, Lindsay, did you have anything else you wanted me to?
No, I don't have anything else. No.
Okay, great.
We're good. We wrapped that up in an hour, so I'm good. That's wonderful for me. I see no reason to continue any further tonight.
Okay.
You're awesome.
You're here.
Sure. We'll
Good
see
night then.
in October, and until then.
Sounds great.
I have a question about non-committee
I'm
business.
gonna stop the recording, Kristen.
Okay, thank you.
Good
No
night.
problem.
Right.